Zalar, the commander of the Krellian forces, surveyed the battlefield from his perch atop a rocky outcrop. The planet's red sands stretched out before him, marred by the remnants of countless skirmishes. The war with the humans had been more challenging than anticipated. Their ingenuity and tenacity were legendary among the stars, but today, he was certain, would mark their downfall. The Krellians had pushed the humans to their breaking point. Their supply lines were severed, their conventional weapons exhausted. Zalar's antennae twitched with satisfaction as he imagined the humans' desperation. He knew they were resourceful, but without weapons, what could they possibly do? From his vantage point, he could see the human encampment, a haphazard collection of makeshift shelters and trenches. The humans themselves were a motley crew, battered and weary, yet their eyes still burned with an unsettling resolve. Zalar could not fathom what kept them fighting when all seemed lost. He signaled his troops to prepare for the final assault. The humans were on the brink of defeat, and today the Krellians would crush their spirit once and for all. Little did Zalar know, the humans were far from defenseless. They were about to witness a level of battlefield brilliance unlike any before. Sergeant Marcus Reed wiped the sweat from his brow, smearing a line of red dust across his forehead. Beside him, Corporal Elena Vasquez tightened her grip on a makeshift spear fashioned from a broken broom handle and a sharpened piece of metal. Their unit was a ragtag group, each member bringing a unique set of skills to their desperate situation. There was Private Tim Gadget Nguyen, a former electronics engineer, who could turn any piece of scrap into a functional device. He was busy rigging an old radio to create a frequency jammer, his fingers nimble and precise despite the dire circumstances. Next to him, Specialist Maria Sanchez, a biologist before the war, sorted through a collection of plants she had gathered, looking for anything with potential as a poison or a healing salve. In contrast, Lieutenant John Hawkins stood as a symbol of stoic resolve. A veteran soldier, he was the backbone of their makeshift unit. His experience and calm demeanor, a steadying force amidst the chaos. His piercing blue eyes scanned the horizon, aware that the Krellians would not give them much more time. As the humans prepared for the inevitable attack, they knew they had to rely on more than just their dwindling supplies. Their greatest asset was their ability to adapt and innovate, qualities that had carried them through countless hardships. Little did the Krellians know, these humans were about to demonstrate just how powerful those qualities could be. Sergeant Marcus Reed looked at their dwindling supplies with a grimace. They were down to their last few bullets, and most of their high-tech weaponry had been either destroyed or depleted. The Krellians had been relentless, their superior numbers and advanced technology pushing the humans to the brink. The soldiers around him shared his concern, their eyes betraying the weight of their dire situation. "We're out of conventional weapons," Marcus announced, his voice steady but grave. "We need to come up with something else, and fast." Elena Vasquez nodded, her face set in determination. "We can't afford to sit and wait for them to wipe us out. We have to fight back with whatever we have." Gadget looked up from his work, his face lighting up with an idea. "We can improvise. We've got plenty of scrap and everyday items. We just need to get creative." Maria Sanchez joined in, her voice calm but firm. "I've found some plants that can be used for poisons. They won't expect that from us." Lieutenant Hawkins, who had been silently observing, finally spoke. "We've been underestimated before. The Krellians think we're finished, but they don't know what we're capable of. We'll turn this around with what we have. Everyone, start thinking outside the box. If it can be thrown, swung, or used to hurt someone, it's a weapon." As the unit sprang into action, scouring their surroundings for anything that could be repurposed, a renewed sense of hope and determination filled the air. They might be out of traditional weapons, but they were far from defenseless. The human camp buzzed with a flurry of activity as the soldiers put their minds to work, transforming ordinary objects into tools of war. Marcus Reed led the charge, organizing their efforts and ensuring everyone had a role. Gadget was in his element. He dismantled an old microwave, using its components to create an electromagnetic pulse device. This will short-circuit their advanced tech, he explained, his eyes gleaming with excitement. He then turned his attention to a pile of discarded batteries and wires, fashioning a makeshift stun grenade. Elena Vasquez, with her background in mechanics, took charge of weaponizing their vehicles. She modified an old truck, reinforcing its frame with metal plates and attaching a crude but effective flamethrower to its side. "This beast will give them a nasty surprise," she said, a fierce grin on her face. Maria Sanchez, the biologist, carefully mixed her poisonous concoctions, testing their potency on small samples. She then coated the tips of arrows and spears with the lethal mixture, ensuring that even a scratch would be deadly. "Nature's weapons can be just as effective," she remarked, her hands steady despite the gravity of her task. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Hawkins oversaw the construction of traps around their perimeter. He directed the placement of tripwires connected to makeshift explosives and pits filled with sharpened stakes. "We need to control the battlefield, force them into our traps," he instructed, his voice calm and authoritative. Even the non-combat personnel contributed. A group of cooks turned their kitchen knives into deadly throwing blades, while the medics prepared makeshift smoke bombs using chemicals from their supplies. Everyone understood the stakes, and their collective ingenuity began to take shape. As the humans worked tirelessly, the landscape around their camp transformed into a maze of hidden dangers and improvised weapons. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the battlefield. Zalar, confident in his impending victory, gave the signal for the Krellian forces to advance. With a unified roar, the alien soldiers surged forward, weapons glinting ominously in the twilight. They expected little resistance, believing the humans to be on the brink of collapse. But as they approached the human encampment, they were met with a series of unexpected obstacles. Gadget's electromagnetic pulse device was the first surprise. As the Krellian front line stepped over a seemingly innocuous pile of debris, Gadget triggered the device. A burst of energy surged through the air, and the Krellians' sophisticated weapons fizzled and died, leaving them momentarily stunned and weaponless. "Now!" shouted Marcus, his voice cutting through the chaos. Human soldiers emerged from their hiding places, hurling their makeshift weapons with deadly precision. Kitchen knives and sharpened broom handles flew through the air, striking Krellians with unexpected force. The aliens, disoriented and caught off guard, struggled to regroup. Elena's modified truck roared to life, its makeshift flamethrower spewing fire into the advancing Krellian ranks. The aliens scattered, their ranks breaking as they tried to avoid the inferno. "Push forward!" Elena yelled, steering the truck with one hand while igniting a path of destruction with the other. The truck barreled through the battlefield, a mobile fortress of human ingenuity. Maria's poisoned arrows found their marks, the toxic tips piercing Krellian armor and causing instant paralysis. The aliens, unaccustomed to such primitive yet effective tactics, fell quickly. Maria moved with grace and precision, her calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the chaos around her. "Focus your fire, take them down," she commanded, her voice steady. Lieutenant Hawkins orchestrated the defense with tactical brilliance. "Fall back to the traps," he ordered. The human soldiers retreated in a controlled manner, drawing the Krellians into the deadly maze they had constructed. Tripwires set off makeshift explosives, sending shrapnel flying into the Krellian lines. Pits filled with sharpened stakes claimed more victims, the aliens unable to navigate the treacherous terrain. The Krellians, once confident of their superiority, found themselves in disarray. Their high-tech weapons were useless, and their formations crumbled under the relentless human assault. Zalar watched in disbelief as his forces were systematically dismantled by the humans' unconventional tactics. "Regroup! Regroup!" he bellowed. But it was too late. The humans, driven by desperation and ingenuity, pressed their advantage. In the heart of the battle, Marcus fought alongside his comrades, wielding a makeshift spear with deadly efficiency. "For humanity," he shouted, rallying his troops. The cry was picked up by his fellow soldiers, their voices rising in unison. The humans pushed forward, their resolve unbreakable. As the battle reached its peak, the human camp was a whirlwind of activity and emotion. Amidst the chaos, the human soldiers found moments of reflection and connection. Marcus Reed, panting and covered in sweat and grime, paused to check on his comrades. His eyes met those of Elena Vasquez, who was bandaging a wound on her arm with a torn piece of fabric. "You okay?" Marcus asked, his voice laden with concern. Elena nodded, a grim smile on her face. "It's just a scratch, nothing compared to what we've been through." Despite her bravado, Marcus could see the exhaustion in her eyes. They had all lost friends and loved ones in this brutal conflict, and the weight of those losses was ever present. Nearby, Gadget was frantically working on another improvised device, his hands trembling with fatigue. Maria Sanchez approached him, placing a steadying hand on his shoulder. "Take a moment, Tim. You've done enough," she said softly. Gadget looked up, his eyes red-rimmed, and nodded. "We're all in this together," Maria added, her voice a soothing balm amidst the turmoil. Lieutenant Hawkins, standing a little apart, watched his unit with a mixture of pride and sorrow. He knew the cost of war all too well. Every victory came with its share of sacrifices, and today was no different. He thought of the fallen comrades, their faces etched in his memory, and vowed to honor their sacrifice by ensuring their struggle wasn't in vain. In a quiet moment, Marcus found himself looking at a photograph he kept in his pocket, a picture of his family. The faces of his loved ones gave him strength and reminded him why he fought. For them, he whispered to himself, a renewed determination settling in his heart. The tide of battle was unmistakably turning in favor of the humans. The Krellians, once confident in their technological superiority, now found themselves on the defensive. With every step forward, the humans showcased their unparalleled adaptability and determination. Gadget's EMP device had crippled the Krellians' advanced tech, creating chaos among their ranks. Elena's armored truck had carved a path through the enemy lines, its flamethrower a relentless force. The traps laid by Hawkins had ensnared and decimated countless Krellian soldiers, forcing them into a disorganized retreat. Zalar, realizing the peril of his situation, ordered a retreat, but it was too late. The human soldiers, fueled by their indomitable spirit and innovative tactics, pressed their advantage. "We've got them on the run," Marcus shouted, his voice carrying across the battlefield. The humans surged forward, their victory now within grasp, turning the once bleak battlefield into a symbol of their resilience and ingenuity. As the dust settled on the battlefield, the Krellians were in full retreat, their once formidable ranks shattered by the humans' unyielding resolve and inventive warfare. The human camp, though battered, stood victorious. Cheers erupted from the exhausted soldiers, their triumphant cries echoing across the now quiet landscape. Marcus Reed surveyed the scene, a profound sense of pride welling up within him. He clasped hands with Elena, Gadget, and Maria, their faces marked with dirt and sweat, but glowing with victory. Lieutenant Hawkins approached, his stern features softened by a rare smile. "We did it," Hawkins said quietly, his voice filled with both relief and resolve. "We showed them what humanity is capable of." As the soldiers began to regroup and tend to their wounded, Marcus took one last look at the battlefield. It was a testament to their ingenuity and unbreakable spirit. In their darkest hour, they had turned the tide and proven that ordinary people could achieve extraordinary things.